Here we go with another edition of the Bark Tank. Welcome in. We're presented as we are every week by Sugardale, everybody. My name is Andrew Siciliano, back today in the slightly remodeled home office. What do you think? Okay, it's okay. Don't tell me. I know it's not done. It's not done. You can drop your comments in the YouTube. Keep your comments to just about the decor. I'm kidding. All right, the Browns lose, and they lose in another tough one, another one that was honestly hard to watch, especially with some of the mistakes late on that final opening drive and early with special teams as well. They fall to the previously one-win New York Jets, 27-20 on a rainy day, at least in the second half, on a rainy and windy day at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. The Browns now come home, and they get the rare 4 Eastern, 4 o'clock local kick time at Huntington Bank Field with the Ravens coming to town, a rematch from Week 2. Coming up, the man who braved the elements down on the field, a really bad field, but thankfully, fingers crossed as we sit here Monday afternoon, no injuries from said field. Although Alex Wright is getting a quad injury checked out. That was the word during the game. He was ruled out with that second half injury. Gerard Cherry is that man who is braving the elements down on the field. Our Brown sideline reporter, my partner, along with Nathan Zagura of the University Hospitals Cleveland Browns Radio Network, will join the show coming up in a second. And in his great 10 minutes, he will rank his favorite members of the Wu-Tang. That's an inside joke. Method Man was down on the field before the game, and Gerard mistakenly. Can we have a moment of levity here? It was a tough game. Moment of levity. On the air, Gerard said Redman was down on the field. And Nathan and I are looking at each other. Well, we'll save the story for later. It wasn't Redman. That's all I got to say. All right. We're gonna list the positives here, because we all know the negatives. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it. Can we go to some positives? Positive number 1, Carson bleeping Schlesinger, who, as Kevin Stefanski said on Monday, has Wolverine blood. When I interviewed Kevin Stefanski before the game, and I got the distinct impression, actually not the distinct impression, he flat out told me that Carson was going to play 14 days after a high ankle sprain. I said, is Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid fame, Pat Morita, been in the building this week? He said, I haven't seen him, but the guy's been working his tail off. Not only did Schlesinger play, he played an amazing game. I mean, right out of the gate, opening possession, 0 blitz, drilling Justin Fields. And the Browns used that a lot. And it worked. A lot. Mason Graham, no 0 blitz, just getting a great swim move and getting right at Fields and forcing the interception to Ronnie Hickman. So Schlesinger played his tail off, and as Kevin said today, he doesn't know, and he goes, look, I'm not watching every game, but I don't know of any defensive player in the NFL as a rookie who is playing better than Carson Schlesinger. Mason Graham also had a good game, got to the quarterback and forced the interception. Yeah, Ronnie got the pick. Rocket second of the year, second career also against the Jets. Remember, he had the pick 6 in the playoff clinching win on Thursday night at home back in 2023. But it was Graham who got there and forced it. Before he got hurt, Alex Wright was playing a good game. Myles Garrett had a sack as well. Devin Bush constantly filling the hole and making big hits. But you also have to point out the things that went wrong, like the defensive holding call that gave the Jets a new set of downs and killed another minute off the clock on that final possession, which the Browns never got the ball back. That was on Devin Bush. Or Cam Thomas jumping off sides when it certainly looked as if the Jets were not going to run a play. And that ended the game. Jets could take a knee. You could see, and Stefanski was asked about that today, was that you yelling, because you could see it on the broadcast, yelling, don't jump off sides. Kevin didn't say he was or wasn't, but obviously everyone knows what's going on there. Cam Thomas jumped off sides. Cam Thomas also had a sack. Okay, so there's good and there's bad. And that sack was key in holding the Jets to a field goal when they were in the red zone earlier in the day. So there is good and there is bad. And that is what is difficult to me and to Nathan throughout the day. And I'm not speaking for him. I'm just trying to take you inside the booth. Because he and I were convinced, as I'm sure you were. Matter of fact, I know you were. convinced the Browns are going to win this game. I'm not suggesting this was going to put them on some 9-game winning streak to close out the season, because you go a week at a time in this league. But going in there against a team that traded its 2 best defensive players, a team that, yes, found offense late in the fourth quarter to beat the Bengals before their bye, but as you can see, Justin Fields has trouble completing forward passes beyond the line of scrimmage. Got to win that game. And so, like, for example, the 3-and-out to open the game, especially after Quinshawn rips off a 12, 15-yard run on the first play from scrimmage, and then it gets called back for holding, and then you go 3-and-out, and then you punt. And Adam Archuleta, if you watch the TV copy, as I assume most of you did, because that is how you took in the game on Sunday, said that's as bad a first opening series as we've seen this year. But then you come back and you go 95 yards, and Dillon Gabriel is playing on time, and Quinshawn is running well. And you're like, okay, I see it. It's there. Jerry Jeudy's getting involved. It's there. It's putting enough of those together and then finishing at the end of the game. And they couldn't do that. And I want you to know, and I know we say this every Sunday. We are watching and feeling the same things that you guys are. We are equally frustrated. Sometimes we have the same gallows humor, the same jokes, but we're as excited as you when David Njoku's in the end zone, when Dillon Gabriel, after the Hickman pick, executes the play fake, and with a guy in his face, is able to float that ball to Jerry Jeudy, who fights for it and comes back for the ball and gets the 22-yard touchdown. We're as excited as you, and we're as frustrated as you leaving the stadium. And if you listen to our post-game comments, I know you heard that. I know you did, because this is a game you got to win. You cannot give up a kick return and a punt return and expect to win. You can't have 10 first downs to none for the other team at one point and be losing in the first half. It just can't happen. The Browns are the first team in 14 years. Actually, I'll flip it around. I'll give the Jets credit. They have the run backs. All right. Wangu and Williams. The Jets are the first team in 14 years to score touchdowns on consecutive special team snaps without running a play from scrimmage in between those two scores. You do that, you're not going to win. You're just not going to win. Tip of the cap to David Njoku. David Njoku now, most touchdown receptions by a Brown since the rebirth in 99, is now 5 ahead of Braylon Edwards, has 33. Braylon has 28. Most sacks by a Brown after 10 weeks. Myles Garrett has 11. He is on pace with his DPOY season in 2023. Also had 11 after 10 games. Harold Fannin with another touchdown. I told you how well Schlesinger played. And I do want to give credit because, listen, the headline on special teams is the 2 returns. That's all that matters. You gave up those 2 scores, you lose. You have to give credit to the special teams unit for getting on the field and setting up Andre Schmidt, and then Andre hitting that 45-yard field goal in those conditions at the end of the first half. Like, as soon as Dillon got sacked, you're like, all right, that's it. And I started counting 10, 9, 8. They're getting out there. 7, 6, 5. They're getting out there. They'll line it up. Clean snap by Rex. Clean hold by Corey. Great kick by Andre Schmidt. And it's not just those 3. The other 8 got lined up. Nobody moved. Everybody on the line. No illegal procedure. And you nailed it. I mean, that is the absolute bare minimum amount of time that you need to get out there and to do that. And they did that. So, again, that's another example of the good and the bad. Like 3-and-out to start the game that's ugly, then a 95-yard picture-perfect drive. 2 kick returns, a kick and a punt return for touchdowns. And then look what you do at the end of the second quarter. You get out there, right? The defense plays fantastic for 99% of the game. and then the 2 defensive penalties at the end. It's hard to have a perfect sheet. It really is. Now, I think Miles had a perfect sheet. I don't know that for a fact. But if you go back to week 8, obviously the 5 sacks. Plus, he had the pressure that forced Drake May to step up and then eventually get picked off by Schlesinger. And he had the pressure that forced Drake May to move up to get Alex Wright the sack. So, I mean, that's about as perfect as you can get. But you can't have your negatives at the end of the day be killer negatives. And that's what they were. They were absolutely killer negatives. You know who is a positive? He is a ray of sunshine on a cloudy day. And I'm not just trying to bring back old school R&B or old school hip hop about which there was an issue Sunday. That's Gerard Sherry. He is back inside. He is no longer down on the field in the rain. I felt bad at one point yesterday, Gerard. I said, like, how bad is it? And I thought in my head, like, is it going to sound like I'm sarcastic and like rubbing it in that Nathan and I are upstairs and you have to be down there in the elements?
Man, that's the furthest thing from my mind. That's the role of a sideline reporter, to be in the elements. That's one of the reasons why I can't wait till we're in a situation where we're in that new facility. So, no, that's funny. That's very gracious of you and thoughtful of you. But trust me when I tell you, I am not thinking in those terms at all. At all.
It's funny because I had kind of, not that I had forgotten that it might rain. I mean, it was certainly a storyline all week. I packed a raincoat, all those things, but it was unseasonably warm in the morning. Like, I went out and got a cup of coffee before I hopped on the bus. I'd say it was like 50, but there are people actually out there in shorts. Like, when we got off the bus to get at the hotel or to the hotel at maybe 6:15, walking into a couple of players off the bus and they were like, man, you don't even need a jacket. And then I walked in to the booth and I saw you before the game and you had your rain gear ready. I'm like, oh man, it's going to rain. And yep.
Yeah, well you'll take, you know what though? You'll take 50-degree rain over 20, 30-degree rain with 20 to 40 mile per hour winds. That yesterday, it was tolerable. That was not worse. I mean, we've experienced much worse than that, but nah, man, It's actually, I actually enjoy being in the rain. Probably should move to Seattle because as a kid living in the Bay Area, I would literally walk to school with a bus pass when it would rain. So there's a part of me that actually enjoys the comforts of rain. And I needed that comforting yesterday based upon what took place with our football team.
Okay, I mean, look, we could unpack the whole California rain thing, like in Southern California, how it leads the news if it's going to rain. Like, be sure your kids understand what rain means when they go to the bus stop tomorrow morning. But that's a different story. That's Southern as opposed to Northern. Let's talk about what you mentioned, which is how things went wrong. Gerard, I want to come to you as a special teams guy. I know that's not your entire career, but obviously you were a great special teams player. When you look at the 2 returns yesterday, on the first one, Cam Thomas had a shot at him, didn't happen. On the second one, Grant Delpit had a shot at him, didn't happen. Like, as a returner, I'm thinking, I got to make the first man miss anyway. So as the viewer on the couch, I'm asking, were those great first moves and give credit to the returners, or were those fundamentally flawed special team schemes and execution?
The schemes were not flawed because you had a large percentage of players to the side where the ball was kicked. So that's the first thing you look at. But special teams comes down to ultimately a lot of it desire and obviously technique factors in. Now you talk about Cam and him having the first opportunity to crack at him. And look at his body positioning. Well, now with the new rules, you have to soundly defeat the guy that's blocking you and then always remain squared up. You're not going to tackle anybody from a side, coming from a side perspective with your body turned partially, as I'm doing right now on the screen. That's not going to work. It's still about squaring up and putting your shoulder into someone square, not from a side angle. And you saw that with the Cam situation, something similar with Grant as well. But ultimately, it's a thing with desire with special teams too. And when you have a situation, Andrew, where one is run back on you, it's like absurdity for a second one to take place because you should be so angry, so mad, and so upset that you are not even blockable at that point. So the key part to it all is obviously get off the blocks, and you can't have a situation where they're glued to you like the Jets were. And I also think, too, since we're talking about this from a psychological standpoint, a lot of times what players will do when they see big transactions taking place during the course of the week, figure that, we got this team beat. They just lost their best players. And you start psychoanalyzing their mentality, not being truly in that locker room. And there's a part of me that really thinks just on our energy level, how we responded to the Jets was this attitude of they have already quit. No, it goes back to what we said in the opening of the game. You have to make them quit. As Method Man would say, you have to bring the pain.
All right, can we get to that, because this has become a thing, and I mentioned it, Gerard, in the open just a few minutes ago. So down on the field before the game, I get down there, and all of a sudden this photographer walks by. I did a triple take. I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm like, nah, that can't be him. 30 seconds later, Easton Mascarenas Arnold, rookie linebacker number 42, said, oh my God, did you see Method Man is over there? I'm like, okay, so I'm not crazy. That's Method Man.
That's Method Man.
So I walk over, say hi. He couldn't have been cooler. Like, the idea that Method Man literally went like, Siciliano. I was like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing of all time, right? Like, this is the coolest thing of all time. Anyway, I got my picture. I posted my picture. Jerome Ford, like other guys on the Browns, like noticed Method Man and got a picture with Method Man. And I'm up there in the booth. We toss it down to you, Nathan and I do at the beginning of the game, and you have your whole first hit prepared, and you're like, as Redman would say, and I'm like, oh my God, how do I do this? I looked at Nathan and I said on the air, do I do this? Do I do this? And if I hadn't posted the photo, I would have let it go. But I felt like I had to correct you. I could have been a better teammate, Gerard. I'm sorry.
Again, I wasn't bothered by it. Believe me, in my mind, I said Method Man. Now, I've seen them in concert together, hence why I probably said Red Man, because for a while, think about the late 90s, early 2000s, they did movies together. I won't say the name of one movie, but because it's probably not proper on this format. So they were synonymous with each other. You saw Red Man, you saw Method Man. But nah, man, again, no offense taken. You're so gracious in that regard. Sometimes you're going to make mistakes, right? Yeah, and you really can't
make plenty of them.
Take it to heart.
Yeah, like I said, Nick Folk had the opening kickoff. It was Austin McNamara. Their punter does their kickoffs. I mean, that's on me. Whatever. No one noticed that. Thankfully, Twitter didn't notice that. At least I didn't see the Twitter noticed that. I should have gotten that right.
Andrew. Well, here's the thing, though, with my situation. I was like, that was dope what I just did. All right. Like, that's what we call bars.
I said before that, that I was going to make you rank your members of the Wu-Tang. All right, so we have like RZA, GZA, ODB. We have Ghostface Killer. We have Redman. We have Method. Rank them. We have Raekwon.
Yeah, I would say Meth for me is number one.
I agree.
I love think about it. I mean, you can't think of a hook he doesn't sing that you don't love. Loved ODB. And rest in peace. I say Ghostface Killer next. Then I would go with, I'd probably go with then Raekwon. And last but not least, who am I going to put in that camp? Because Redman's not, I really don't consider Redman a member of the Wu-Tang Clan, to be honest with you. He's more like an affiliate.
Do you consider Jerobi a member of Tribe Called Quest? I mean, it's all
I do, though.
I do, though.
Yeah. Because he's on the album cover.
Correct. We're just two old guys talking old school. That's what we do here. We can get back to football as well. I want to make this point, and Gerard, I kind of made it earlier. I'm curious your thoughts. Like, we can look at the two returns. The two returns lost the game. I mean, well, they're a huge part. Not the only plays, but, I mean, they set you back, and then you couldn't dig yourself out of the hole. At the same time, like, what they did at the end of the first half with 10 seconds left to run on the field and not only have a clean operation, all 11 guys, but to nail the kick, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's really a microcosm of this football team in that a lot of times you'll see signs of success where it's like, okay, there's something to work with here. And then you'll see the futility take place in other spots, which is so freaking frustrating for you because you're saying, why can't we consistently play situationally clean football? Because to execute what they did, that's pretty difficult. And they did it to perfection. Get no seconds, pretty much 2 or 3 seconds left. You kick the ball, goes through the uprights. Boom, you got some momentum going your way. That's great. But the problem, once again, is we don't have that consistency. We don't have a situation where we're constantly doing the right things. And I'm here to tell you, you're not going to win football games if you're not playing clean football. And we talked about it at the beginning of the game, Andrew. You have to give the Jets a reason not to have hope. What in the world do you think? How, and you know the answer to this, and I'm somewhat being facetious. How often do you see returns take place? They're rare.
Not that
for
often.
touchdowns.
Not that
and
often.
when they do occur, do they galvanize the sideline?
Yeah. If you get a return, you generally win the game. If you get 2 returns, I know you're going to win the game. Yet the Browns still had a chance there at the end because they dominated I wouldn't say dominated offensively, but at one point it's 10 first downs to none. Justin Fields, hey, he's a Buckeye. He's a good dude. I like him. They couldn't complete a forward pass.
Right.
Beyond the line of scrimmage, they couldn't complete a forward pass. Period.
And that's a problem.
Yes.
Right. And that's a major problem. So you got 2 out of 3 phases winning the game. But I've been in games before. Heck, I was in an AFC Championship game where we won the game because our special teams was clearly superior to the Pittsburgh Steelers and that they didn't put much investment in their special teams. So again, we talk about it being a 3-phase game. We talk about complementary football, and that was a perfect example of how one phase playing poorly in it can cost you a football game. Because if they don't have those 14 points, the Jets don't win the game.
You're being modest. You had a great game that day. And the other thing too is the idea that there's nobody at this game. Like I was joking, I've been to weddings and bar mitzvahs that have had more people than were at that game. There were good sections still available. Not like good seats, good rows, good sections. Like you could have walked up and said, hey, I'd like section 525, all of it. And you could have had it because there was no one there. There was no energy. Like you gotta, hey, to quote Method, like protect your neck. You got to go after theirs, basically.
In that case, cash was not ruling everything around me because those seats were cheap. With that being said, it was such an eerie feeling because it had the feeling of a preseason game that counted, obviously, because you could hear yourself think. You could hear people talking like up rows because it was that quiet in the stadium. It was weird for a regular season football game to be that quiet.
Yeah, it was. It truly was. And it was one of those, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. Everyone who's listening is a Browns fan. Obviously, we all felt the same way. It was one of those where you walk out of there, you're like, what? Like, there are, and I've said this 1,000 times before, I'm a Sunday morning optimist. I'm 51 years old. I can't remember the last time I woke up on a Sunday morning or a Monday or a Thursday or a Saturday not believing in my bones that the Browns will win. It's just how my brain works, right? I drive to the stadium or I drive to work for years in the studio in LA at DirecTV. I drive to work and I call my dad. Usually my mom is on the phone as well. And I lay out how they're going to win that day. I didn't have any doubt yesterday. I had zero doubt. None.
No, this was part of my, when you say the schedule game, that was penciled in on my list of wins.
You know what my biggest fear was? My biggest fear was that they would be so dominant against Justin Fields in the first half, which they were, that Tyrod would come in the second half and actually throw it downfield a little bit. No, being serious, not that they couldn't handle Tyrod, but that it would have changed things where maybe they get some chunk plays and maybe they get Garrett Wilson going. And maybe there's an explosive here or there where it's actually, you actually got to, stay awake kind of thing. Right?
Right.
And I asked Kevin I asked Kevin in our pregame interview, like, did you have to prepare for Tyrod this week? Just maybe I didn't lay it out like you're going to be so dominating over Justin that you're going to have to deal with the other guy as well, who might be more of a threat. But he said, yes, obviously they had to practice for Tyrod. as well. I mean, Aaron Glenn was playing it close to the vest. I don't know why he's playing these silly games, but he's playing silly games. Like even on Monday, as the Jets head into Week 11. And like, I mean, he got downright belligerent when asked if he's going to bench Justin. That offense ain't working right now. It worked because Breece Hall busted a couple of runs, and on a cover zero, he went 42 yards.
Yeah, and the rest is history.
And the rest is history. Anyway, I digress. We move on to the Ravens, Week 11, and hopefully better weather. Although,
well, it's supposed to be in the 50s with rain. 50s and rain is what we're predicting.
50s and
rain. So very similar to what we experienced with the Jets.
At least it's not snow.
You know what? The snow is actually better, if you can believe that. You're probably saying why? Well, simply put, the slickness is not the same. The traction is not as bad. And typically when it snows, it's not as cold.
Yeah, we had the snow game last year. It was glorious. Absolutely glorious. Did you see, last thing, the bicycle kick in Canada, the soccer game in a blizzard on Sunday night?
I did not. Someone did a bicycle kick and scored?
Yeah, like this crazy, crazy soccer game being played in like 8 inches of snow. And this guy scored on a bicycle kick. I'll send it to you.
Nice.
Or maybe young Gabriel can throw it in. Not that we have rights to the video. Anyway, Gerard, love you, man. Have a great week. I will see you Sunday at Huntington Bank Field.
All right, Drew. Safe travels, my man. Love you as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, the great Gerard Cherry. Time for What's Sizzlin', presented by Sugardale. It is our weekly roundup of what's going down to the AFC North. First of all, the Ravens won. Typical Ravens game. They're going to win. They're going to lose. They're going to win. And they won. And they won again. They've now won 3 in a row. Lamar is back. They beat J.J. McCarthy, who did not come alive, enough at least, in the fourth quarter this week. They go to Minnesota. And now the Ravens obviously come here to Cleveland for that 425 kick, Week 11 at Huntington Bank Field. By the way, it'll be our salute to service home game as we honor our veterans, our brave men and women who have taken up arms to defend our great nation. So please be out there as we salute our brave men and women of the armed forces. Also around the AFC North, big news on Monday. And I don't know that anybody saw this coming because there was an assumption that Joe Burrow is gone for the year. And by the way, he may still be gone for the year. But the Bengals had Joe Burrow on the practice field on Monday in a limited way. The 21-day window is now open. Like for Joe Burrow to come back and play football. Strange but true. The Bengals are coming off a bye, so that's why they're on the field on Monday. They go to Pittsburgh this week to face a Steelers team that is reeling after their worst offensive day of the year. Aaron Rodgers looked old, guy that didn't want to face a rush. Well, he hasn't all year, actually the last few years, but with those zone looks that Jesse Minter was throwing at him, couldn't pull the trigger. Offense never got going. Rodgers took a safety. Ugly fourth quarter pass on 4th down in the red zone. That was a turnover on downs. Didn't look good at all. And now there's a legitimate quarterback question for the Bengals as they go to Pittsburgh this week. Joe Burrow is not going to play this week. Zach Taylor made that clear on Monday. They are opening the window. That is all. But they're opening it and they're peering inside, knowing that Joe Flacco is dealing with a shoulder injury. He is a bit banged up. It could be Jake Browning this week for the Bengals at the Steelers. Interesting. Browns obviously still have to play both the Bengals and the Steelers. The Steelers come in December, and the Browns go to Cincinnati Week 18. Week 1 was in Cleveland. Week 18 in Cincinnati, or as Gibby likes to call it, Kentucky. That Jason Gibbs. He's just a barrel of laughs. Guys, Browns lose 27-20. I want to thank Gerard Cherry for joining the show. We will rank members of Tribe Called Quest next time we talk to Gerard. Thanks for sticking with us. Always call it as we see it. We'll do our best. This has been The Bark Tank, presented by Sugardale. My name is Andrew Siciliano. We'll talk to you next week.